Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Before we go any further, I will apologise for it being a few minutes delayed, which obviously only impacts you if you're going to watch this, listen to this live. If you're playing this back on the record, you really don't give a shit. You join me with the Crypto Blast with the amazing Cam from Institutional Fi, where as usual, Cam will be giving us a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in crypto markets. But before he does, and so I don't get told off, I will be getting the legals out the way. So as usual, nothing discussed on this basis session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan Paisley, Cam, or indeed Institutional Fi. Cam, how are you?
I'm very well, Ryan. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Again, I apologise for the late start, but it's all on me.
That's okay. That's okay. No worries about that at all. Um, Lots to kind of jump into today. Obviously, my apologies to everybody listening. There wasn't a crypto bus on Monday. That shouldn't happen again. So yeah, look forward to going through what's happened. We'll do a little bit of a review of what's happened so far in the week, as well as highlighting all the wonderful, maybe not so glorious stuff that's happened in Crypto Week. Who would have thought that Crypto Week rugged? But hopefully we can get back on track today. So starting with the crypto market update, Bitcoin made a massive start to the week, reaching a new all-time high of $123,200, almost entirely clearing out the leveraged short sellers that were across the books across multiple exchanges. Massive movements there, starting Monday. Bitcoin then dropped around 6% from the highs on Monday to the lows recorded on Tuesday, finding some ground around $115,000. Bitcoin now trades at $119,000. And again, we just highlighted the fact that Bitcoin fell 6%, but found support at $115,000. We said this last week about how, we were reporting pullbacks or, price ranges. And, at that point, the support floor was setting up around $107,000. Incredible price point. Go on.
Do you know what? It ties in exactly with what we've been saying before. Is like, remember last week when I was saying, the fact that we're moving away from just leveraged degens that would kind of, if it was off 5%, would trigger a load of leveraged positions to be stopped out, which would then snowball. And we said last week that, because we've got more institutional, quote, real money. So if you hear anyone from traditional kind of markets say real money, what they tend to mean is pension funds, hedge funds, people that are actually like investing serious money, cash, not leveraged, not hedged. It's pure position play. And so if you hear anyone say real money, that's kind of tends what they mean if they've been in the business for a long time. And that's what we're seeing in crypto. There's institutional players get involved with real money. They're not looking for, they're not having tight stops. These are solid positions. And we said last week that probably reduces the chance if we do get a sell-off that it will snowball, because there's a lot, there's the ratio between real money positioning and leverage is going towards the real money. And that's exactly what we saw. It kind of, yesterday's sell-off, part of me thinks that if that was 6 months ago, it wouldn't have stopped there. It would have came off another 10%, because, it was quite an aggressive sell-off. That's the kind of ones where you normally trigger your leverage degens to get stopped out, which then stops other people out, which stop, and then we get that cascade effect. And it was kind of perfect timing for what we said last week. I don't know if you agree with that, or you're sticking your thumbs up on the emoji, so I guess so. You can, you don't have to mute yourself. You can shout over me. I do it over you.
Absolutely. No. I was just doing air quotes the entire time. Yes, yeah, like last week.
Look, okay, I have a problem where I keep doing air quotes on a recording and then I realise that no one can see me. It's my problem. I'm living with it. I'm dealing with it.
But as we famously saw 2 weeks ago, them in person, so there we go.
When I've got a video on me, it's my best day ever. I'm air quoting everyone. Anyway, sorry.
I don't mean to encourage the air quotes either. No, 100% agree with you. And in fact, just goes to say, week on week, that support floor that we were talking about around 107, now 108, $15,000, $8,000 higher week on week. Cryptocurrencies at the moment, specifically Bitcoin, incredible momentum, and mostly, like you were saying, driven by institutions allocating exposure to Bitcoin itself. I'd like to note on the shorter side of things, just as we do, talk about all the news that's going on. We started to see some long-term whale holder wallets. Wallets of over 10,000 Bitcoins or more, that have held for a long duration, normally over 2 years, start selling at the point of 120,000. Now, this could potentially have contributed to, some of the reason as to why we saw that 6% pullback. Historical data, if we went off that alone, shows us that these wallets tend to front run a shift in market dynamics. But, we highlighted this last week. I think we mention it all the time. These market dynamics are completely different as to what we've seen in previous years. So a pinch of salt is needed. And yes, it's brilliant to review these, keep our on-chain activity, marked up, tracking it, but it needs to have a pinch of salt. And we kind of need to see it through a fresh lens to see the cause and effect of what's
So
the real effect that they have
So on
now. Go
this,
on.
right, outside looking in, obviously we know I'm crypto tourist, etc., etc. But I see some people getting all uppity and saying, "Oh my God, this wallet was dormant, is now active. This is this. What do they know? It's big. It's massive. This is the death of crypto. It's about to fall off a cliff. That kind of bollocks." The way I look at it is it's kind of reaffirming for crypto, and it's a good news story that these accounts are becoming active again, because it shows that they're not dead accounts that people have like completely lost and wasted. These are bitcoins that are actually being used in the system. Now, yes, they are selling some crypto and bitcoins, and why the fuck wouldn't you? You want to take some profit when you're a couple of billion up, right? But you know what I mean. I'll give you a clue. I wouldn't have held on this one, but it shows you that these accounts have actually got people on them. I know some people go, "Oh, it's an account, it's a wallet address that's been hacked or whatever." But yeah, potentially. But at least it's crypto that's back in the system. Now you could say, "Oh yeah, but we want the least amount of crypto possible, therefore price goes up." But thinking, longer term here, thinking about more the health of the ecosystem. You want all the crypto, the 21 million or whatever it is, you want them be in play. You want them being used and not forgetting about it. And, you want them being in the system. So I take this as a good news story. One, it shows that these accounts aren't just dead weight and they're just kind of being written off. Two, it shows that these people are still in the game and that, they know what they're doing. I think it's just healthy for the whole ecosystem. That's my take. But then
You are right.
I'm looking at it through the kind of the longer term kind of the whole Bitcoin ecosystem, stablecoin ecosystem as a whole, rather than DGen. I want it up $10.
Yeah. And, for the Bitcoin miners, these transactions, add fuel to them so that they can earn money. Yeah. Like you said, it is positive for the whole entire ecosystem. And you're just looking at this 6%, highlighting that factor before we move on. Like you mentioned in previous years, these transactions would have triggered a massive sell-off, just $1 billion
Yeah,
alone
exactly
moving
that.
from wallet to
Exactly that.
wallet. And, the other week we saw $14 billion linked to just a couple wallets just being transferred. And the markets were so unfazed by this. And then obviously 2 weeks later, we rallied to new all-time highs. So no, just backing up what you're saying, it seems like a positive thing for the markets. And currently in the current market dynamics, it is 100% positive. Obviously you can't say 100%, but it is likely a positive thing because just look at the last 2 weeks, $14 billion from just like 3 or 4 wallets then led to an all-time high. So, drawing the dots and et cetera and kind of wishing out the old volatility from retail investors and with the new institutional investors coming in, kind of stabilizing, maturing the market demand as such. And just on that point, if we move over to the Bitcoin spot ETF products, they saw $403 million in a net basis inflow to the ETFs yesterday, and Ethereum saw around $192 million pulled in on a net basis to the Ethereum ETF products. Now, Ethereum has remained in the headlines recently with SBET increasing their treasury from around $500 million of Ethereum. Just announced that they purchased an additional $200 million, so bringing their treasury of Ethereum up to $700 million. And they're not the only ones doing this. Several other corporations have announced plans to either form an Ethereum treasury or they're adding it and staking their Ethereum. So no surprise then that spot ETH sits at a 164-day high of $3,174, up 22% week on week. And, it moved 22% week on week. So from a low of Wednesdays to the high of this week. And it just sits 22% away from all-time highs now. So we can see how quickly the price of Ethereum could move. So this time next week, you could potentially say a new all-time high for Ethereum. We just don't know. But the current market trend is we're starting to see a lot of those Ethereum treasuries stack up. Moving down the market cap list, XRP sat at $2.95, BNB trading at $692, and Solana trading at $165. Yeah, some impressive moves there from the top altcoins on the market. Moving across to news that's happened this week. Big one. Why do cryptocurrency companies sound like, rejects from,
Oh
Grok?
God, not this again. This is like, I tell you what, we might have to like start compiling a list of awful named crypto companies. Look, I get it when it's a meme coin or whatever, and it's like Greta Thunbergs or whatever you want to call them, or fucking pudgy penguins and fucking fart coin. But when you're making we're trying to create a serious crypto company, do yourself a favour, bearing in mind it's seen as the Wild West by a lot of people and a lot of big money players still. Do yourself a favour, give it a name that sounds semi-serious. But go on, what's this one that you're about to say?
Right, so Big One Exchange experienced a $27 million hack and where an attacker breached internal servers and drained hot wallets. Funds were stolen across many assets, including BTC, ETH, USDT, SHIB, Doge, and Solana. The exchange, came out and said, look, no private keys were taken. But still, that's quite a big, heavy hitter. Zach XBT, who does on-chain, analytics, he's dived in and said he doesn't feel bad for the exchange one bit because they've helped illicit finances flow through the exchange. They quite quickly come out with a corporate response, and then he quite quickly sent them all the illicit linked wallets that went into the exchange and funneled through. And they have yet to respond to that one. So we'll see what comes of that. Moving on, the US financial services firm, Cantor Fitzgerald plans to buy over $3.5 billion in Bitcoin from Adam Black's Blockstream's Capital. That was as per the Financial Times. Bitcoin, oh dear, I need a drink of water. Bitcoin developers, including Caser co-founder Jameson Lopp,
It's
proposed
not hailing at your house again, is it? With the
It's not
usual
hailing.
excuse.
It's not hailing.
That's it not.
I've used that excuse now. Proposed plan to require quantum vulnerable addresses, risking around 25% of all BTC. Now, look, this one, it sounds quite a severe headline, but it's a proposed plan to address an issue. So we'll hear more about that. Obviously, there's going to be a lot. This is hot off the press this morning, so no doubt this is going to get a lot of feedback from major players to see how they're going to go with this. It needs obviously a 51% vote to be passed through anyway. So more to this story to come, and we'll get into the thick of that one later. According to Reuters, Citigroup may issue its own stablecoin in an effort to facilitate digital payments. They said in a quote, "We are looking at the issuance of a Citi stablecoin, but probably most importantly is the tokenized deposit space where we are very active." So what blockchain will they use? It's unknown. They didn't come out and state any of this. However, in my semi-professional opinion, you would expect them to use a custom solution or something similar to Hyperledger. And I did say Hyperledger and not the Hyperliquid exchange
Just
platform.
anecdotally, and I'm not sure if you'll probably come onto this with Teva's news about what they've just bought. But from my experience and what I'm hearing and what I'm actually doing, more and more people are looking for a stablecoin solution for cross-border payments. It was kind of quite an exotic thing, say this time last year, but so often now, with PIQ doing investor rounds and stuff like that, so often we're asked, can we accept stablecoins rather than kind of changing from dollars to sterling and losing it on that way. So it's become, like we've mentioned before, and I always use the QR code as the perfect analogy. QR codes were very exotic until COVID lockdowns when everyone was forced to use it. It does really, I know we coined the phrase stablecoin summer, but it does really feel like everyone's now getting on board that this is definitely a far better way for cross-border transactions, and more power to them.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be the staple payment system rails, I believe. GameStop, they said that they are considering accepting cryptocurrency payments for trading cards and collectibles, trying to, not die. I'm not entirely sure just trying to reach at this point to any sort of business model to stay alive. JP Morgan Chase announced its plans to deepen its involvement in stablecoins despite, skepticism expressed by CEO Jamie Dimon a million times. During the bank's recent earning call, Dimon acknowledged the bank's intention to engage with both JP Morgan Deposit Coin and other stablecoins. This move is a part of the bank's strategy to understand and master the technology, positioning itself to compete in a rapid evolving fintech landscape. I imagine he's like biting his lip every single time he has to talk about cryptocurrencies. That's great to see. Billionaire Peter Thiel has invested in CryptoRank, an Ethereum treasury startup, acquiring around 9%. Actually, that's not 100% correct. He has Bitmine. He's bought 9% of Bitmine. It was a 9% stake in the company. Ripple and Control Alt have partnered to bring secure digital asset custody to Dubai's real estate sector, supporting the Dubai Landscape Department's tokenization project. Quite massive news, that one. This collaboration marks the first time the Middle East government is issuing tokenized property deeds on a public blockchain, facilitating fractional ownership and cross-border access to real estate investments. As it is a major news story coming out from Ripple this morning. Crypto.com introduces, this is an interesting one. Crypto.com introduces a whale basket OneSafe, offering users a diverse equity investment option across various sectors. Other than there's a $50 minimum entry barrier, its self-proclaimed revolutionary investment basket, there's not much detail as to what it's actually investing in. If Crypto.com wants to sponsor the show, we can delve all about this revolutionary basket.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
We
We
can sing
accept
that phrase all
stablecoin.
day long.
We accept stablecoin.
Yeah, or Orion accept Fartcoin if you ask.
I'll go far lower than that.
Right, Crypto Week. I'm going to say Crypto Week was put on ice. The US House of Representatives abruptly cancelled a planned vote on Tuesday to advance 3 crypto-related bills, including the Genius Act, the Clarity Acts, as well as a physical 2026 defense spending measure. So crypto wasn't the only thing that was stopped. The House voted 196 to 223 against a procedural rule governing debate on the bills, and the House Press Gallery website confirmed that no further votes would take place that day. This was yesterday, contrary to lots of posts going around on Twitter saying that there was a revote at 5 p.m. This was false. So the failed vote was triggered by internal Republican dissent, particularly from the House Freedom Caucus members who opposed the Genius Act despite its already passing the Senate. The legislation would enforce strict stablecoin regulations requiring reserves in US dollars or highly liquid assets, and introduced audits for large issuers exceeding $50 billion. Tether. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. There was also the opposition against the Clarity Act, saying that the bill as it did not reflect President Trump's executive order calling for a ban on CBDCs in its entirety. So that's as to why we saw the refusal there, stopping in the House.
And it's that Marjorie Taylor, whatever her name is, she was very adamant about this. And tell me if I'm wrong, but the vibe that I'm getting is because, the vibe that I'm reading is because what they're saying is they want it put into law, basically, that central banks, what they're saying, the Fed, cannot start their own stablecoin, or and the reason they're saying that is because they're scared that if a central bank does it, then it kind of takes the need for all these other stable coins that they're probably invested in. That's kind of what the vibe that I'm getting. Is that roughly on track, or?
I think there's a good portion that, also control of finances. There's a lot of people scared that, if CBDCs get launched, obviously it gives the state, and it gives the government a lot more control around your funds. I mean, what's the difference, from now if your money's sat in the bank, there are protection rights put in place for a reason. But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, as well as other concerns. Now, President Trump, he wasn't very happy about this, so much so he took to Truth Social, and pretty quickly, as the opposing votes were swiftly brought in front of the White House, into the president's office, And lately after that, the president said, I'm in the Oval Office with 11 of the 12 congressmen and women necessary to pass the Genius Act. And after a short discussion, they have all agreed to vote tomorrow morning in favor of the rule. Speaker of the House, Johnson was at the meeting
Michael
via
Jackson.
telephone. Michael Jackson was at the meeting. I don't know how they did that one. Mike Johnson was at, at the meeting via telephone and looks forward to taking the vote as early as possible. So yeah, Trump very not happy that those acts were kind of poo-pooed on yesterday. And it looks like we could be seeing a vote around midday today. Whispers are saying it's around 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 5 p.m. if you're in the UK. Now, there's a lot more news to go over, but you know, we've taken up quite a bit of time today, so we'll make sure to pack
It's
this into
okay. It's all
Friday's
good, mate.
spaces.
Because yeah, as long as we're adding value, we don't mind stepping over.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I'll tell you what, let's do a little plug because a lot of these news stories today came all the way through PIQ Suite. Yeah, there's a lot of AI generated news summaries to help you stay on track of the news that matters most. It was where I was able to pull together today's crypto blast, in a nice sequenced way, to bring obviously all the stories that matter straight to your ears. If you want a trial, an extended trial, DM me nice words. I may send you a little code that you can add in.
On
And
this
make
as
sure you're
well,
following the institutional finance. Go on.
So I am, well, with your help, we're going to put in some proper crypto feeds on there. Also we've got some smart filtering and smart feeds coming in line as well with the AI that we've just added. So definitely check out the mobile app. Obviously check my profile bio for the link to it. But we're going to make it, basically it's hundreds of sources all aggregated into one. So it's your one-stop shop for news. But yeah, good plug. Thank you.
Yeah, more than welcome. That is going to be it from me. And I look forward to Friday where we can jump into more news.
Wicked. Cam, again, sorry for the slightly late start, but phenomenal as always. Bigger and better things to come between myself, PIQ, yourself, and Institutional Fi. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Much love, keep it tight, and we'll see you all Friday.